let's take a look. Okay, Gathering Storm, Chain Gruts. I know Ken's looking forward to this. So let's look at Chain Gruts first. The Gruts have improved. All right, let's read through this lore for them. On the world of Grut, struggle and conflict are a way of life. Nature itself is at war with the inhabitants of this savage world. Extreme climates, sudden shifts in weather, towering predators, and unforgiving terrain have shaped the orcs of Grut into a hardened, unrelenting people. Their culture was forged in clashes between clans and the daily fight for survival. Eat or be eaten, survival of the fittest. But conflict can breed innovation. The need to outmatch their enemies drove the orc clans to developing new strategies, weapons, and tools of war. In ancient times, it was the clans that first mastered bronze, working and tamed wild beasts who rose above their rivals and conquered vast swaths of land. As generations passed, new technologies became necessary to maintain dominance. A steady arms race unfolded, fueling the industrialization of this savage world. Interesting. Steel, steam, and lightning were harnessed in the name of progress. As the orc clans waged increasingly technological wars, the demand for resources exploded. Some of the more cunning engineers realized that a tool capable of felling trees or mining rock could be just as effective at slaying enemies. Thus, the chain axe was born, and with it, the chain gruts. These infantry quickly became a staple of every orc army and workforce. Their terrifying efficiency is rivaled only by the gruesome brutality of their chosen weapons. Whether cutting through trees, steel, or enemies, chain gruts are more than happy to let their axes do all the talking. When Valorak first received visions of Grut, she immediately recognized the potential these warriors had for realizing her grandiose plans of Hakaland and beyond. The chain gruts and their cavalry officers were among her first recruits, forming the backbone of her growing operation, whether fighting on the front lines, erecting massive structures, or helping keep the peace on the home front. These orcs have proven to be one of Valorak Enterprise's most vital and dependable assets. No, we're not talking about Geller right now, though. No, absolutely. Who are those? We don't know who those are yet. So Jeremy, Grut kind of had a makeover because I mean you're a little bit familiar with this planet because I think we've talked about it before in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
This is a part that the fun part about Heroscape. You know, it is the battle of all time, and it's easier to focus on Earth's timelines because we have an entire historical record of it. You know, you just go to the library and you can learn all about Earth's history, but we don't really think about the history of the other worlds that are in Heroscape. This is a shout out as well to the original design team because I want to say it was Colby Dotch and the others who invested that idea because they brought the Mario dividers and Tobakra are from Mars future. So they were able to like play with different timelines in the same planets that they were using. So this is kind of that same effect. The chain gruts come from a future timeline of Grut, whereas we're used to seeing their past versions or their more ancient style versions, minus the heavy gruts, of course. But it was just being able to see a timeline form out is one of those cool things about the battle of all time. So this right here is a future Grut. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool that Valorek was able to like pull them from a different time on the planet to where you see the quote unquote progress. Now, what would you say? Because this is one thing that was in my mind. Because your classic like orcs on like say in like Warhammer are just like brutes. They don't even Warhammer 40k. They don't really think they process. They're just almost like monsters. And I mean, it's kind of a lore question. It's like, is this a good thing? Like trying to modernize them within the story, What do you think, Jeremy?
I mean, they adapted. That's the thing. It's all about the planet's circumstances. So in their planet, they found that it was easier to become industrial, and through that industrialization, improve their technology, improve their resources. So they're just doing this for survival. So in a way, it's still like base level instinct, but that base level instinct evolved into something more technologically advanced, and that's why they now have these chain axes and things like that. They grew them out of the necessity of survival.
Derek, I'll say that the uniforms, they're dressed in uniform. I'll tell you what, just in Grut fashion, they probably stole the uniforms from a marching band. I'm just that's we can put that in the lore. They needed uniforms, so it's like, okay, wait, there's a marching band. Okay, should we kill them? Let's draw lots. We're definitely taking the uniforms, but we'll draw lots whether or not we're going to kill them.
I think the idea is that they're using the steampunk aesthetic. If you're familiar with steampunk, so
yeah, for sure. No, it's an interesting interesting look, and it was. I mean, a lot of people were talking about it when we saw them during Gen Con. It's like, oh, those are orcs, very modernized, and the chain axes are very interesting. But how about we get into the card then? Let's read through this because it's got some words. Okay, Valorek, Chain Gruts, Orc, Common Squad. Means you can use a lot of them. Enforcer, Brutal, Medium 4, Life 1, Move of 5, Range of 1, Attack of 2, Defense of 3, 75 points. And we have Guild Boss Bonding. Before taking a turn with Chain Gruts, you may first take a turn with a champion you control who is an Orc or who follows Valorek. Chain Axes. After rolling attack dice, before defense dice are rolled, you may re-roll one die that did not roll a skull. Strong Arm. Figures engaged with one or more Chain Gruts cannot make leave and engagement attacks against figures that are not Chain Gruts. Okay, I gotta read that again. Figures engaged with one or more Chain Gruts, okay, cannot make leaving engagement attacks against figures that are not chain. Okay, you're gonna have to explain this to me, Ken. What?
Oh yeah.
Read it
so
twice.
If a Knight of Weston is engaged, let's say with Kane, okay, and he's engaged with two Chain Gruts, the Kane can disengage from the Knight of Weston.
Okay. They can't or
Does that
can?
make sense?
No. Okay.
He can. Yeah.
Okay.
So two Chain Gruts, or I guess one Chain Grut engaged with Kane. I mean with a Knight, and the Knight's also engaged with Kane. Kane can just skedaddle. He doesn't have to stay there. There's no LEAs or anything like that. So that's what.
Okay. So any. Okay, I think I'm starting to understand. So you have Chain Gruts and you have other like heroes or squads in your army.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Kane bonds with the Chain Gruts. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so it can be anything in your army besides the Chain Gruts, though. Correct? Is that
correct? The Chain Gruts do not give each other disengage. They give the other guys disengage. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Now I get it. All right. That's that. I don't think I've seen that before. So that's an interesting way of playing.
You have not seen that before, no.
Yeah. So what else do you think? Because I know you kind of been champing at the bit a little bit for these.
This is by far my favorite from this wave. To attack with Chain Axes is more like 3 attack. It's more like +1 dice, but -1 max skull. So just to speed up time, you would roll 3 dice, and then the most you can get is 2 skulls instead of rolling 2. Reroll 2, reroll 2, reroll. That's going to add a lot of time, and you know what that means? You're not playing faster. And then the Guild Boss Bonding is, it has a lot of fascinating things going for it. Like in Contemporary, you've got Tuck, you've got Decker, you got the Blimp, but that doesn't matter. You got Kane, and now you got the Ramasaur Rider, who's actually great for 35 points. But then if you open it up to all time, you have Nirak. Mm-hmm. There's no reason not to use Nirak, right?
Sure.
But you also have Grimnak. But what's fascinating is Grimnak chomps, right? But these guys aren't Orc warriors, so they're not going to get his bonus plus attack and defense. So So Kane fills a similar role in terms of his stomp. I mean, you have to roll an 8 or higher, but the difference is, well, I guess these guys can give Grimnack disengage as well, but these guys can give Kane disengage too, so that he can keep trying to restomp people like he's not stuck in one place.
So what you're telling me is Imperator Kane is now valuable?
I would say I think the best contemporary army. Well, right now I think it's the Galrai, but I think when this wave comes out, I think 5 Chain Gruts, Tuck and Decker is gonna be really hard to beat.
Okay.
I feel like that's gonna be, if not the best army, one of the better armies out there for sure. Obviously that's figure limit. You know, if you have 20, that's 22 figures. So if it's only a 16 figure limit, you can't do that. But then that's when you start using Kane or something like that. Okay. So I think these guys are phenomenal. I love melee bonding. I love orcs. I think in all time heavies are still better because they're 5 points cheaper. But these guys are phenomenal. So I would encourage, like, if you want to, but melee bonding is really great because you put all your order markers on the Chain Gruts. So you don't have to think that hard about that part of the game. So you have to think about like your movement and other strategic things, but as far as order markers, you're like, all right, I can handle this. You get a little bit of reprieve as opposed to the guy with 14 army cards across from you, and you're like, good luck, buddy. So
yeah, it definitely helps with people who appreciate bonding synergies in this way, the direct bonding synergies that you can get, especially with orcs. Who doesn't like an orc army? It's one of the easiest armies to play in Heroscape. So especially people coming in to the game and wants to play in a tournament and yet have an army that's that can do some damage and give you potential to win in advance within whatever tournament you're in. I'd say Gruts are definitely a good choice. So it's great to have an addition for these in. Jeremy, what do you think of these guys?
Oh, they're pretty good. I like the guild boss bonding too. How you're going to be able to, that's one of those missing synergies that people have been asking for. Because we kept getting these board champions, and there was an expectation of some sort of bonding. Now here it is, we got it. So you're going to want to be able to use that with those heroes. And I like the idea of being able to do repeated stomps, because now with strong arm you don't have to worry about Kane leaving engagement. So that's a really good thing out there. But sure. Yeah, they're pretty solid common squad, and I think them with their Amosar Rider will be pretty good options.
And hey, Brendan Nichols there in the chat. I really, and there's 4 of them too. So it's like whenever, so that's the potential for 5+ attacks for that turn, if I'm calculating that right, depending on what hero you're activating to take a turn first, whatever champion you're using. So there's that potential too. So high attack value. You get to reroll dice, in which you got to play faster. So that's. But I people are complaining about that. That's one thing when it comes to like the dice reroll. I understand it might take a few more seconds of time, but for me, it's not as big of a deal as what some people are kind of complaining about when it comes to that aspect. It doesn't bother me too much.
I think like on Dorm, nobody cares because he's one figure. But when you have Chain Gruts that you're doing it 4 times every turn, it's just going to add up, if that makes sense.
Well, imagine doing Chain Gruts and then you're playing against an army that has acolytes.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Then at that point, everybody's like, you know what? Let's order some pizza. It's going to be a while. So
just wait till ScapeCon. There's that's because who knows? I might use like a army with an acolyte or 2 in it, just because. Acolytes
are surprisingly decent.
I got bested by a lot of my losses at Gen Con was because they were using acolytes, and I got bested by them because of those rerolls. It was just that.
Because you don't want to waste your attack on the acolyte because he's just going to come back. But sometimes it's like, it's a fast. But like on turn 1. But on turn 1, you probably want to kill him because that gives you 2 more turns or 2 more order markers where he's dead, right? So.
But the thing is, if you're up against a skilled player, that they kill the acolyte right away themselves.
Sure,
Yeah.
but I mean, like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's very interesting about like order, like target ordering and whatnot for when it comes to acolytes. So
Anyway, but we're talking about
I do,
chain grats. So, but yeah, go ahead.
right. I do
Finish.
like,
Yeah.
I do. I was gonna say I do like how Renegade is pushing a little bit about like even with the Galrai, just about like what we normally do is a little bit different now. I kind of like that we have to think a little bit differently.
For sure. And that should Heroscape should be an evolving network of units and builds to use. It should ultimately, it should be just an endless amount of armies that you could think up of and synergize throughout this whole network of hopefully someday endless miniatures to use from. So I think quite possibly, like, and I mean, I think I'll close with this because we're talking about deeper things than what we should be talking about tonight. But do you think one way to break the quote unquote meta is just to like expand so many units and synergies and just oversaturate everything to the point that it doesn't matter because there's so many armies that can be opposed to one another. You just got to be good at playing them. What do you think?
Talking about contemporary or like all time?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard because when people start talking about power creep, when you start like doing all time, and the problem is the more units you have, the more back doors you have to watch for. Like you have to make sure that like maybe Destro is not a human champion, so he doesn't bond with the Knights of Weston, right? But in I guess, well, he would, depending on what, I guess GI Joe's, because Frostclaw's only bond with Jandar's Jandar, right? What do Frostclaws bond with? Large.
You have to, I think Jandar.
Yeah.
If only there was this website that there's a guy named Chris Perkins.
Who you just talked to, I think, not too long ago.
I did. Yeah, before taking Jandar, they call it Jandar Champion Bonding. So, right, so the workaround, let's say Destro was too powerful for that. Well, the workaround is you make Destro like Einar or something, right? So, like, so part of that is like you have to just make, and Jandar, just for everybody, I know Destro's not a human champion. Please do not put that in the comments. But the problem is like once you open the door to all time, you got to watch all these little back doors about like not trying to break figures or whatnot. So, I don't know if spamming more and more units is the right answer because I feel like you have to be super careful about just watching some hidden synergies sometimes, and hopefully like the play testing that the developers do, and like I know Adam and Don are part of like they contract with them, and then I know they have a group of play testers that help with all that stuff too. So hopefully like they're able to catch all that stuff, but I still think like it just opens up that possibility that you have to be really careful. So that's why I think a lot of units that come out, they want to try to shoot for like for lack of a better term, a B range as opposed to like an A range, like an A tier or a B tier, because they don't want that necessarily to happen. But I think like right now, since contemporary is so small, like we just added commons for the first time at Gen Con, and really acolytes don't really count as commons because you really don't want one, maybe two of those at the most, right?
Yeah.
So and so you've got Tanukis and Crabs, and the Tanukis won, and because it's like, oh, the Tanukis were better than I thought they would be, but now we have Gelrai, and I think like the Gelrai are like I'm in charge, I'm the boss now, right?
For sure.
But like I also think the Great Bows have a decent shot with in maybe like smaller figure limits because the Gelrai really want to max out that start zone. So I think in Heroscape, so I don't know, the best way I think to answer this is if you're afraid of seeing the same stuff over and over again, I think formats solve most of those problems. Like if you're tired of Gelrai, 16 figure limit, that solves that problem, right? If you're if you're tired of, I don't know, Great Bows or Queen Maledrex, and you say no more than 250 points of large or huge figures. So like I think there's ways to manipulate that and make that so that the meta is always ever changing. In a straight cheese environment, I think it's hard to necessarily break into that without getting too much power creep. So I think like Q9 Rats and Raylan is always going to be good, unless, I don't know, they come up with a 20-point figure that really is like plus 12 against major Q9 attack dice, you know what I mean? And he has Ghost Walk. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? But then, like, everybody's bringing that figure in their army now for the last 20 points of their army because they don't want to fight Q9. Like, so it's an interesting balancing act. I don't really know if I answered your question.
No, it's interesting discussion, and I don't even know if there is really a solid answer for it. But when it comes to, like, say, Gallery v Chain Gruts, do you think that's a good matchup, depending on how the armies are shaped?
Yes. Yeah, I feel like Gallery versus Chain Gruts in the 500 point 24 figures. I feel like that's a decent matchup. I think it's I would say slight. I don't know, slight. I think the Chain Gruts are better, but I feel like a good Gallery player could win that.
Okay. Well, it's cool. It'll be interesting to see what happens come ScapeCon and Gen Con next year. So that's taking a look at the Chain Gruts. Yeah, very, very, very nice. Very nice unit. Very nice card.